Hello peoples of the internet, it is Sharkyevno, and today we're going to be talking about the Colorado shooting. Because of the subject matter, I'm not going to be as joking or fun and not going to add any meme edits. Now, the first thing that we need to go over is a lot of the facts of the case that a lot of liberal and especially conservative media are ignoring, that are actually really important to the situation. So basic rundown of what happened is a guy brought a gun into a queer-centered establishment that was hosting a drag show. He shot and killed 5 people and 19 were injured. Also, this is important, it was on Trans Remembrance Day. Now, the main part that the media is focusing on is that 2 people, a vet and one of the performers, stopped the perpetrator and saved a lot of lives. And now I think it's really important to focus on the heroes in certain situations. It's important not to glorify the shooter and focus on the victims and the people who saved others' lives. And I think that is definitely something that's really important in pretty much every shooting. But I think it's irresponsible to ignore who the shooter is and his history and his past and what motivated the shooting. I think it's important that you have to pay attention to that too. Now, I'm not going to be saying the name of the shooter or showing his face because that's not the important part, but let's just talk about who he is as a person. More importantly, his dad's response to the shooting and who his grandfather is. The shooter was a 22-year-old conservative who had a history of violence. In his past, he had threatened his mom with a homemade bomb that led to a police standoff and him being charged with multiple felonies. But all of these felonies were dropped by the local prosecutor. So while editing, I just wanted to add a couple things about his past run-in with the law. To make sure I'm not doing any misinformation, there were no working explosives found when the police took him into custody. The standoff also forced the evacuation of several nearby residents. He eventually came out of the house he'd been in and was taken into custody. Police did not recover any explosives. The police accused him of multiple felonies, including menacing and first-degree kidnapping, but no formal charges were filed in the case, and it was ultimately sealed. So there weren't any charges pressed, and the case was ultimately sealed, but based on what he did and his age, because this was only like a year ago, he should have absolutely gotten charges for. Colorado has strict rules regarding the sealing of court records. When a record is sealed, it never existed, Howard Black, a spokesperson for the district attorney's office, told HuffPost. An editor at Gazette reportedly received a voicemail from the suspect in August asking for the story to be removed or updated. There is absolutely nothing there. The case was dropped, and I'm asking you, either remove or update the story, the suspect said, according to the publication. The entire case was dismissed. So a lot of pressure to remove any information about this case. And because it was sealed for no apparent reason, red flag laws were not triggered. Now, why were all these felonies dropped by the local prosecutor? Well, coincidentally, his grandfather is a Trump-supporting conservative Republican politician. Also, some extra info on the suspect's grandfather. He is a Trump-supporting right-wing legislator who has voiced opposition to marriage equality in the past and celebrated the Jan 6 Capitol attack. Now, I'm not saying this guy's multiple felonies were dropped because his grandfather is a politician, but there doesn't seem to be any explanation why a prosecutor would randomly drop multiple felonies. So, his grandfather is a far-right conservative politician. What about his dad? Well, there was an interview done with this guy's dad when they found out that he was a shooter, where the dad, in response to finding out that his son was a mass shooter, responded by saying at least he wasn't gay.
I can't get answers from the attorneys really, but they're saying that somebody's, it's involving a gay bar or some shit. I don't know. I don't know what the heck he did at a gay bar. I don't know what's going on.
Well, he's accused of going on a mass shooting at a gay bar and killing 5 people.
Colorado.
Okay, well, that's shit. If he's accused of doing that, I'm surprised he's not gay. I'd say that, but he's not gay.
Then proceeded to brag about how homophobic he was and how he instilled all his anti-gay and anti-trans values into his son.
There was a shooting involving, multiple people,
Right.
And then later on wanted to find that it's a gay bar.
Yeah, right. And
I was like, oh my God, is he gay? I was scared. Oh my God, shit, is he gay? And he's not gay, so it's
well, you guys had conversations about that. You were.
Oh, yeah, so
you
I was
you
adamant
told him.
about it.
Yeah, you were adamant that gay
I
is,
was adamant
gay
this
is
ain't
bad.
happening.
Yeah.
I'm a Mormon, I'm a conservative Republican, and we don't do gay.
Yeah.
We don't do gay.
Yeah.
I praised him for violent behavior really early. I showed him that it works. It's instant, and you'll get immediate results.
Yeah. This was a hate crime, by the way. And the guy who committed the shooting is now identifying as non-binary so he can try and avoid hate crime charges. This guy is not non-binary. He has no history of ever identifying as non-binary. Zero. He is not identified as non-binary until after the shooting to try and avoid hate crime charges by claiming that he is in fact actually non-binary and it wasn't a hate crime. And the conservative media, including massive people like Tucker Carlson, are trying to use the fact that he identifies as non-binary to say that this attack was leftist. It was not. This was a conservative attack, and this is a disingenuous claim of identity to avoid certain charges. So how is the conservative media responding to this event? I mean, we have people like Tim Pool saying we shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids. Club Q had a grooming event. How do you prevent the violence and stop the grooming? So Tim Pool basically just justifying violence, saying that the shooting was because trans people exist, essentially, and that Club Q had a grooming event, which it did not. Unless you consider being trans a grooming event, then yes, it did have a grooming event. But again, at that point, he's just justifying killing all trans people. Then he spent the next day repeatedly posting about how LGBT people are groomers, continuing his stochastic terrorism. This is stochastic terrorism. So all of the conservative media currently pushes that trans people are pedophile groomers. You might say, yes, that's a lie and harmful, but it's not directly calling for violence on trans people, and they always disavow when violence happens. The thing is, though, you're calling trans people pedophiles. Do you know what happens to pedophiles? If you ask the dad what they would do to a pedophile who groomed their child, what do you think their response would be? I would say that a majority of dads would probably say that they would kill the pedophile who groomed their child. I don't think that's controversial to say. Most dads would say that, and most people wouldn't be too mad at the dad for saying that they would kill a pedophile who groomed their child. Most people wouldn't be mad at all. What happens to pedophiles in prison? If you're in prison and it comes out that you're in prison because you're a pedophile, it is a death sentence. And if not a death sentence, you are at least going to be beaten up and you are going to be violated, you're going to be raped, you're going to be killed. Bad stuff will happen to you in prison if you are labeled as a pedophile. Being labeled a pedophile is one of the most career-ending, damaging, life-destroying things you can do. And the conservative media is labeling an entire section of the population as pedophiles. Conservatives are never going to have to actively say, kill all trans people. Because if they're able to conflate trans people with pedophiles, there will be no need because they can just say, we should kill all pedophiles. And the general population is going to be a lot more okay with that than killing all trans people. These are pre-genocidal conditions. The conservative media, the Republican Party, is prepping America for a genocide of queer people. Because fascists need an enemy. The Nazis' enemy were the Jews. The Republican Party's enemy will be queer people. That is who their enemy is going to be. And you shouldn't just be worried if you're a trans person. Because like I said, trans people are simply a scapegoat to build fascism on. Any person who doesn't like fascism should be against the genocide of trans people. We can't just say, oh, trans people aren't politically effective right now. Maybe we can deal with their rights later. No, you can't do that because if you let them genocide trans people, they have already won. They already have the bad guy, and now they can justify doing whatever they want by saying that they're doing it to beat the pedophiles. Let's watch a little bit of Tucker Carlson's response to this tragedy.
Right. I mean, it shouldn't have to be said, but what is anti-LGBTQ that these people need to understand, and what is putting our community in great danger is, claiming that all of us support this and just associating all of us with this. Saying that groomer is an anti-LGBTQ slur, that is doing irreparable damage to us.
This is one of the things they keep doing. They'll associate everything that queer people do as being grooming. And when you call them out for saying that all queer people are groomers, they'll be like, no, why are you saying that all queer people are groomers? Why are you associating all queer people with the groomers? You're the one that's really saying it. When no, they'll say that anything that a queer person does is grooming. And say that you're being the harmful one to queer people when you say that they're calling queer people groomers. It's so frustrating. It's just fascist rhetoric. It's straight fascist rhetoric.
As a whole, and it's putting a really large target on our backs. And unfortunately, the tragedy that happened in Colorado Springs the other night, it was expected and predictable. We all, within Gays Against Groomers, saw this coming from a mile away. Yeah. And sadly, I don't think it's going to stop until we end this evil agenda that is attacking children.
Yep, just straight up spewing anti-LGBT propaganda on the biggest news network. Tucker Carlson also played along with the, they're actually a they-them narrative. So yeah, that happened too. Libs of TikTok, also known as Schistic Terror Incorporated, also did some very harmful things after this. They, only a few hours after the shooting in Colorado, decided to name drop another queer organization in Colorado and give their address and everything, and show all of their followers how to find them. This organization in Colorado teaches kids how to become drag queens and helps kids safely experience the art of drag on stage. So basically just saying, here's your next target, here's your next hit list, literally giving out other places that they can shoot up in Colorado, and also spread the narrative that this person is actually a they-them leftist and not a conservative just trying to use it as a defense against hate crimes. Let's see what lovely Matt Walsh has to say next. Let's see what's being said there. This is Matt Walsh talking directly after the shooting.
So we see that Drag Queen Story Hour and family-friendly drag shows, quote unquote, have two purposes. One, from the drag queen's perspective, is to satisfy their fetish for cross-dressing in front of children. The other, on a more macro level, is to indoctrinate children into queer theory. To put it simply, the point of Drag Queen Story Hour and the supposed family-friendly drag shows is to turn your children queer. That is the goal. And the thing about the left is that what they believe and what they do, all of it is so horrifying, so perverse, so degraded, that if you just quote them, then you somehow sound like the crazy one. If you quote what they are saying, it sounds crazy just to say it out loud because it's so horrifying. Yet it's true.
They are destroying your children with perverse ideology. They are grooming your children. We need to do something. We need to do something. Guys, here's their address. We need to do something. And then you surprise Pikachu face when someone does something. They're actually not even surprised Pikachu facing anymore. They're past that now. Most of the conservatives are not even like, oh my god, I disavow the violence, I disavow the violence. They're instead just blaming gay people now. They're not even doing the surprise Pikachu face. They are past that. We have moved beyond the disavow.
And this is the reason the left cares so much about this, and they defend it so vigorously. Because according to the left, think about this. According to the left, the drag queen child combination has become dangerous. They say it's a lightning rod for violent backlash, right? That's what they say. And it's greatly exaggerated, of course. Mostly it's invented out of whole cloth, actually. But even by their version of events, if it's causing this much chaos and violence, why do you insist on continuing to do it? If according to you, it's like putting people's lives at risk, if the effort to have men cross-dress in front of children is putting people's lives at risk, Why are you still doing it? Is it that important to you?
Trans people could do anything. They could literally just stand there. They could just have a nice stroll in public, and they would be accused of all these things anyways. He's not asking them to not have drag shows of kids. He's asking them not to be trans. He's like, well, you being trans is causing you to be killed by us. So why are you being trans? It's causing all this violence when they're the ones doing the violence. It's people just expressing themselves and being themselves, and then a group of people being violent and attacking them and killing them, and then the group of people who's killing them is like, you being yourself is causing all this violence. Why are you still doing this? It's causing so much violence, while actively beating them to death with a baseball bat. It's unironically the why are you hitting yourself meme. Like, you know when older brothers take their little brother's arm and start punching their little brother in the face with their own arm? You know when they do that? And they're like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? It's unironically the why are you hitting yourself meme, and they think that that's a valid argument. Now, replace hitting yourself with murder. And that's what they're doing.
Now, as always, they try to flip the burden around on us. They demand that we explain why we object to children being exposed to drag queens, and we can explain it, and we have, and we will continue to, because it's very easy to explain. Drag is inherently sexual and ideological. It is burlesque, and it's not appropriate to bring your child to a burlesque show. You disgusting freaks. But why should we be the only ones explaining? Instead of asking why we oppose it so much, we should ask why they support it so much that according to them, they will keep doing it at the risk of life and limb. Why is it so important to you to cross-dress in front of children?
Why are you shooting yourself? Why are you shooting yourself? As he points a gun and shoots at a trans person. Why are you shooting yourself? Why are you shooting yourself? Why are you shooting yourself? Disgusting. This specific shooting happened because a prosecutor dropped all charges of a Republican politician's son. But not only are those people responsible for this specific shooting, the conservative political pundits that are constantly pushing that trans people are groomers, that trans people are illegitimate, that trans people are a threat to women, that transness is evil, and all those things are fully responsible for this shooting and the shootings like it that are to come. And it's not even just stochastic terrorism, which is the issue. That's like the minor issue compared to all the anti-trans legislation a bunch of conservative states are passing right now. You have Florida, you have Texas, all these states passing bills that essentially make it impossible to be a trans person and under 18. And they won't stop there. And they're passing all these bills under the notion that they're protecting kids from groomers. Again, no, they're not anti-trans bills, they're anti-groomer bills. That's why they have to conflate the names, because they can't just say genocide trans people. And it is genocide. They're trying to erase the existence of trans people. You know what happens to trans teenagers and trans adults when they're unable to transition? They commit suicide at way higher rates. Study after study shows that accepting trans people for who they are drastically reduces suicide rates. So not accepting trans people is killing thousands of people in America alone. Like, they're literally trying to take away parents' children for doing any gender-affirming care. It is genocide. They are trying to end trans people from existing. So, yeah, with all the rhetoric that's going around, we can only expect more shootings just like this. We can only expect more. It's not the last one. It hasn't been the first one, but they're probably just going to get more frequent. Well, I hope I was able to inform you guys, and that you guys got some new information about the shooter specifically, because it really does show that it was specifically driven by conservative rhetoric. It was a heavier video. If you want to keep watching my content, here's a more lighthearted, fun video of me just making fun of a transphobe. Nothing serious, just goofs. So if you want to watch that now instead, it will be showing up on the screen.
Also, I forgot to say this. I would really appreciate if you guys could like, subscribe, and comment on the video. and share it if you want to. I spend a lot of hard work on these videos, and I think these are important messages to spread. So thank you for watching, like and subscribe.
Well, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a nice day, night, evening, afternoon, and stay safe out there.